Welcome to Frax Check, your weekly Frax vibe check. I'm your host, Capital K, and I'm joined by my co-host, DeFi Dave, and our producer extraordinaire, Sam. We'll be going straight to the source of truth via checking the chain. But before we jump in, please gently touch that subscribe button. That works too. You don't have to smash it because we need you to get our mat. Yes, caress it. That also works.
Gently press it. Gently
to get us to that 10,000 mark. Please, guys, we are on a mission and we need your help. And also, please follow us at Flywheel DeFi on Twitter and Telegram. This week, boys, you know it is Fraxlentine. So happy Fraxlentine. And I call this week Love is in the Air. Okay.
Love is in the
air week. Okay. As the name suggests, this week, things are just simply lovely. It's really lovely this week.
Isn't it lovely?
Yes. And you'll see what I mean as we dive into this pool of love here. But first, Frax Check will always be starting with our flagship product, which is the supply. And you see here, we're pretty much unchanged. So I'm quite happy to see this, even with the pullback. We're at 1,024,000,000 Frax stablecoin supply. And then not much here. So moving on to the next slide, we saw the peg got as low as a 0.99 to a high of 1.002. But obviously we have to go into the market and check the swap, which is where we did 100 million Frax swap for USDC. We received an exchange rate of 0.9984. Again, not much change here. And lastly, we'll talk about the collateralization percent, which you'll see on the next slide. And we have been at this 92% for the last 7 Frax checks. Okay, so no news. And on the decent percent, 23.5 relative to last week, we're down 4 bips. So across the board, we're pretty much flat. So breezing right through here. Quick summary on the health check. The peg is good. Curve swap is strong. Collateralization percent unchanged. Decentralization percent unchanged. And moving on, we have our Frax BP product, which is sort of like our liquidity as a service product. And we experienced a massive jump here. You know, Love is in the air. Frax BP is in the air. We have a 7.4% jump to $530.2 million. Okay. This is quite a big move for the Frax base pool. On the right-hand side, you see that I've been tracking this monthly or this volume as well. And so far for the month of February, we generated 29 million in trading volume. For context, in January, it was only 12 million. Okay, guys. So we're halfway through February and we already hit 29. So the markets is definitely picking up here. Though granted, that's still only 5.4% of the utilization rate of the pool. So we could definitely facilitate a lot more liquidity here. And on the next slide, we have a yield and bribe section where I obviously take a look at what the Frax BP is paying out. And it's paying out 2.28% APR per convex. And that estimated out to be 570K in yields. And we're comparing that to the total bribes we paid of 291K. Rough back of the envelope math. It seems like we're definitely up. But recall that Frax doesn't take all of the yield, right? Because Frax's PLL is only a portion of the pool. And the reason to bribe is to actually incentivize other liquidity to be paired with the Frax BP. And we see here that for every $1 bribed, we receive $617 in liquidity into the Frax base pool. So that's pretty good efficiency, if you ask me. And now I want to quickly, before you go there, Sam, I want to ask you guys, what do you think our percent of 3 pool is?
100%.
98.
Dave?
98.
Oh, okay. Go to the next slide. You guys are so good. You guys are so good.
It's a 99. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Dude, just like right in the middle.
Yeah. Sometimes that's how love is, it's fickle. It's somewhere, it's like
love
really
is in
close.
The air. Yeah.
Love is in the air though,
So true.
And if so is Frax Baseball. I was so happy when I saw that. I was like, but what's unique here though is it's actually the base pool increased, whereas the 3 pool remained flat. Ooh. Like people are actively choosing the Frax BP over the 3 pool when they're like fresh money to LP. It's not like one person migrated from 3 pool to Frax BP. It's like fresh money chose Frax BP. So I thought that was pretty interesting to look at. And then on the next slide, you'll see all 3 of them in comparison next to each other. The Frax BP at 530 million, 3 pool at 551, Frax 3 CRV at 450. So you see it's kind of like literally neck to neck right there for the 3 pool. And hopefully in a couple of hours, the next day, we'll flip the 3 pool and we'll have some happy news to report next week. But regardless, we are so back.
We're so back.
Per the popular turn of phrase. Now, quick reminder, Frax base pool is also being able to be paired against other stable coin such as LUSD. And I think now more than ever, it's kind of critical for us to have venue for liquidity for the decentralized stables, given the recent regulation. And on that, on the next slide, we have 77 million of TVL paired against the Frax BP. And it's almost 2% bump from last week. So definitely can't complain. Things are going very well there. As always, I checked the yield. And I'm very surprised to see that on the next slide, the yield gets as high as 10% with I would say, pretty strong decentralized stablecoin, LUSD myself, right? Look at that. You could park it in there and earn 10% with nearly 18 million in TVL. That's not too shabby. I did check the composition of that pool, though. It is slightly imbalanced. It is almost like 33% Frax BP and like 66% LUSD. So you definitely coming in with a bonus if you were to deposit the Frax BP tokens. But again, you would then have to hold like 60% of LUSD. So DYOR, just kind of pointing it out for you guys here. And as always, we talk about how effective we are at these bribes that we give out for the meta pools. We paid $49K in bribes, and for each dollar, we incentivize $1,563 to be paired against the Frax BP.
Wow. Nice.
I mean, these are like drastic numbers to pay for liquidity. I wonder if we were to go through and check all the other pool twos and everybody else's liquidity, see how much they're paying for $1 of their emissions. I'd love to compare notes.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But probably just TLDR, everybody would probably beat them. So, there's no need to do that research. But on the next slide, the base pool could be paired against also non-stable assets, guys. So these are your, Reserve, Frax BP, Badger, Frax BP, CVX CRV, CVX FXS, Frax BP. And this experienced a slight drop of 8.5% to 16 million this week. We got as high as 17.5, and that was the high ever. So, I mean, this is a small pullback relative to where we were just a couple months ago, where we're at the 10 million mark. So things are great here. And like always, I go and check the yield. On the next slide, you'll see that Ohm Frax BP is offering a nice and juicy 38% APR.
So nice.
And I've been looking at Ohm. It's been pretty much flat for the last 2 or so weeks. I mean, granted, everything else mooned, so you'll probably be upset. But if you were to just be sitting pretty with Ohm here, it's not a bad pool. It's not a bad pool to be in. Not to mention it has 4 million TVL too. So I think that's a good one. And then on the next,
I like the RSR.
Go ahead, Sam.
Honestly, I like the RSR. Right?
You like RSR? Yeah, RSR is.
Yeah,
I was going to say like RSR, Alchemix, like all of them. Anything that pays above 35%, I feel like, especially at these prices, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It could be okay to toss them in there. I just wish we could do like RSR Frax ETH or something. You know,
it's coming.
I normally
it's
like,
coming.
yeah, I normally like to pair like these volatile assets with a volatile base pair, but like I said, it's coming soon. TM. And, here we see that our bribes are also quite effective. We pay 12.7K in bribes to incentivize. I'm sorry, for $1 of bribe, we incentivized $1,259.
It's pretty
That's
good.
really freaking good. Like, that's really freaking. I wish there's a benchmark out there. Maybe we should do that research just so we can show people what the benchmark should be at. But anyways, so summary time, we have the Frax base pool at 530 million, which is 99% of the 3 pool. Sam guessed 100, Dave guessed 98, and Love is fickle. That's why it's in the middle. And the meta pool TVL, the meta pool TVL is at 77 million, and the non-stable is at 16. And you'll see that on the next slide, that in total, all the meta pools total out to be 93.2 million.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Nice. Okay. Sam, did you go to the next slide, or is it frozen?
I'm there now. We're at the total meta pool TVL.
Yeah. Yep, right there. And then after that, this is our Frax ETH segment, everybody. And as always, we check the count. We are at basically 95K. That is a 9% increase week over week. And if you were to ask me, well, where are all these Frax ETH hanging out as we're about to hit 100,000 Frax ETH? Well, let me tell you, buddy, it is at 50% of them is in S Frax ETH.
That's crazy.
And solid, right? I just can't believe it's half. Good. The curved LP sees the other 45, and then else, I have no idea what these 4,000 or so ETH are doing. Just somewhere in the
They're
ether.
simply vibing, obviously.
They're doing the work for the community and not taking up any yield whatsoever.
Yeah.
just diving handing it for us. We appreciate you. And now, if you were to look at the peg check, which you'll see on the next slide, because again, these are stablecoin, ETH stablecoin. We went down to 0.9986 here that you saw. If you guys weren't here with us last week, we hit literally 1.00000. So this is definitely down slightly, but we can't just trust the dashboard. We got to go into the market. And here I try to swap 3,500 Frax ETH, which represents the largest holder of Frax ETH, and it gets an exchange rate of 0.9978. Now, I normally don't like to see a 7 number in there because it makes me feel like I'm using like a Uniswap or any of the other pools, which I have to pay 30 bips. And this is kind of where we're at, and we should be paying 4 bips for a stable coin. So I would love to see this balance a bit better. It was not too bad. The balance, as you guys can see here, is like 44% to 53%. So it's 47 to 53. So it's not terrible, but we could definitely use a little bit more balance. And we're still above 120 mil. So we're holding strong there, 9 figures solid. But enough about checking Frax E. Let's take a look at how it stacks up.
Before we head on, remember why the PEG is so important is that when we get to full withdrawals here in maybe like another month or two, that queue to unstake is probably going to be over a year long.
It will be, especially
right?
with Kraken being forced to unstake. It's guaranteed, basically.
Yeah, guaranteed.
So it's going to take up all of that market share that Kraken's leaving out. perfect opportunity for Frax.
Yeah, I wonder who. I wonder who, Dave.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Guys, this Frax ETH. Come on. What are you talking about? All right. If you compare it to the market landscape here, it is official. We have flipped Stakewise to be the third liquid staking derivative provider. You can't really say
we're number 3.
We're the top 3 LSD dealer in the market right now.
Still the highest quality.
Still the highest quality. And we have basically 0.5% market share of the whole thing, whereas Lido has 29. But if you were to pay attention to the 64% 30-day change, like that's what we should focus on here. And I did a quick and dirty math, right? And it would take us, assuming Rocket Pool remains its monthly growth of 13%, we maintain this monthly growth of 64%, we will flip Rocket Pool in 4 months.
I think we're probably looking at like 6 or maybe a little longer. I mean, our average growth rate's been about like 7 to 8% a week.
If we flipped Rocket Pool by my birthday, I'd be so happy. So my birthday is July 22nd. So it's like 5 months away.
There you go. Let's put it on the calendar. If we flip Rocket Pool by July 2nd, Dave
22nd.
will do 22nd.
July, 22nd. Dave will do things.
Dave will do things. Okay. Comment in the chat what do you want Dave to do if it were to flip by his birthday, July 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay. Very fun. And in my mind, I want him to shave half his mustache and rock it for a week.
No, this thing's very delicate. Yeah. Especially with like Frax's performance right now. It's because of the stash holding up the market.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree. And then, but in one area where Frax is already ahead is in the yield department. So you see here that Frax is paying out a nice solid 7%, whereas the closest competitor, Stakewise, only 5.2. We're definitely the best game in town. So guys, come on in and earn some of this sweet yield. And if you have ETH, you should go into the Frax ETH pool and swap it, because I think you get a better bonus for doing that rather than minting new Frax ETH. Just a PSA. And then now here is the next section that I added. It is the middle child of the Frax product suite. And given that it's Valentine's, love is in the air, I feel like we got to show this product a little love. And here we have the supply of FPI at 82.2 million, representing an annual inflation rate of 6.4%. And the peg here is actually only down by 8 bips relative to where it needs to be compared to the inflation of 6.4%. So it's really, really, really tight. And it's backed by, if you're asking how does it generate this 6.4% every year? Well, it has a 85.4 million treasury that is going in there and putting it to work, such as the AMOs that we have on the Frax stablecoin. And 85% of the treasury is in FPI Frax. And that goes into the convex AMO equivalent. And it just kind of mints there. And the remaining, there's about 10% that goes into the just FPI and Frax period. And the remaining 5 is like FXS, like a small holding of FXS and amongst other things. And that is our FPI product, y'all. Nice. On the next slide, we have our Frax Lens section. Here we've snatched a nice TVL of 228 million. I mean, pretty solid for a homemade Frax lending solution. And we have 52 million borrowed on Frax Lend, which represent 82% utilization rate. And the way I look at utilization rate here is a bit different. I look at what was the total number of Frax supplied and how much of that Frax is borrowed. So I think the total supplied is around like 62 or something like that. And then therefore 52 over 62 gives you about 82. And I think that's a pretty damn solid utilization rate with the capital inside the Frax Lend right now. And I like to include these two charts here. One is on the supply value, and this kind of speaks to the confidence that the people have for the Frax Lend product, because folks got to park their Frax into Frax Lend for people to borrow. And on the right-hand side, you see that folks got to park assets like SFrax ETH, like WBTC, like some pristine assets into Frax Lend in order to borrow against it. So I feel like these are two really good proxies to see how great Frax Lend is doing. But if you were to hold Frax right now, there are some really interesting place you can kind of put it. On the next slide, we're going to show you that the FPI and Frax pair, if you kind of take a look there, is paying you a nice juicy 11%. Wow.
Really?
That's really, really freaking juicy. And I mean, you frankly don't have to worry because FPI is backed by Frax. If you have Frax, you pretty much not taking on any additional risk there. So that's a pretty solid number.
Look at that. 11.3% and even 8.5% with CRV.
Yeah, so wow. Those are pretty solid. And if you scroll a little bit further down, you see in the V3 pool with the SFrax ETH Frax, you get to pay a whopping 20%.
Wait, hold on one second.
Is that pool live?
It's not out yet, though. Oh, wait. It's not out yet.
No, it's out. There's like about 1,000 ETH in there.
Really?
So I can just go put my Frax in there.
Yeah, but
20%.
Yeah, but everything is going to migrate over into the V3 pool, so that rate is not going to last long, but it's there. So I guess come get it while it's hot, I suppose.
Oh, there's how much is there? There's oh wow,
so it's about 350K in there.
But it's like unlisted at the moment. Who's using it? Who's like sniffing out these contracts like and going and using it when it's not even on the UI on the main site?
I don't know. Somebody's interacting with a contract. That's why I guess it's so high. But it's because no Frax has been put into it yet thus far. Huh. So I don't know. But in my mind, I don't. Yeah, this needs to be solved. But you guys want to? If anybody out there wants to go in there early and just kind of park some Frax and earn that. And that yield is going to come down.
Really
Frax made an announcement a couple of days ago saying that they would recommend people to move over, but there's no like immediate risk to move over from the V2 pool. But the rates will probably be better after the majority of people move in there. But anyways, that is what we have for Frax Lend this week. On the next slide, for the last leg of the DeFi Trinity, we have Frax Swap. And as I always say, for a DEX that nobody talks about, we're doing all right. We have 68 million in TVL, which is down 7%, but that's fine because Frax Swap has a lot of non-stable pairs like FXS, SYN, amongst others. And you see here with the love of both FXS and SYN this month, we are at $138 million in Frax Swap volume. And just for context, guys, we're only halfway through February, but we are basically at like 75% of January's volume. And January's volume is massive already to begin with. Okay, because in December, we had like 60 million in volume. So this is massive moves and a ton of fees for the Frax Swap folks for this month. So congratulations to those. Then here, a quick PSA. There is a discrepancy between DeFi Llama's reported TVL, which is what we're using here, versus Frax's FraxFax TVL, which because DeFi Llama doesn't include that 85 million of Frax FPI pool, and that FraxFax does. But anyways, next slide, we jump into our profitability section, starting with the AMO holdings. And here we have a grand total of $1.04 billion across all the AMOs. There was about a $8 million change over the last week, with like 4 million leaving the investor AMO and like 4 million leaving the liquidity AMO. and the remaining is curve was flat. The curve AMO was at flat at 712 million. As I said, the liquidity AMO pulled back to 80 million. The lending was at 71, and the investor pulled back to 178. But things are, quite topsy-turvy given the market. So expect the liquidity as well as the investor AMO to fluctuate more than the other two, which is, I think, a great balance. Now we got to talk about the profitability of the convex AMO. For the month of February, as you'll see on the next slide, we have 790K in revenue with 1 million in bribe expense, representing a 210K in profits.
Wait, did we change the slide?
Yeah, we did.
Can you not see it?
Okay.
Let me.
AMO holdings.
No, let me fix it, because if it's stuck, then it's stuck here.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I see it on mine, so maybe just a quick refresh.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Let's go. All right, we're good.
All right. Dave, can you see?
Yeah, now I can see.
Okay, cool. So here's an interesting bit. Because February is a shorter month, we just may get away with seeing like a 400K loss for the month of February. Because, the bribe epoch payment would fall into March. And honestly, if that were to be the case and we just kind of end the month down 400K, I honestly won't feel that bad. That's a pretty acceptable amount to pay for the flywheel, in my opinion. Oh, Sam, you're muted.
Yeah, it's very efficient.
Yeah. Like I said, we showed all those numbers for every $1 of bribe, how much we're getting out of it in terms of liquidity. I don't think anybody comes near to us. So if any of you guys are listening are on-chain sleuths and you can kind of figure that out, there may or may not be a prize for you. There will be. But anyways, that is all for Frax Check this week, boys. Love is in the air, and it was quite an awesome ride. I'm glad I got to share with you guys the good news this week. One, we hit 99% of the 3 pool, and second, we're about to cross the 100K threshold for Frax.
Let's do it.
Exciting stuff.
Yes, things are happy this week. So, and any thoughts and feedback from you guys for the Frax Check this week? Anything exciting?
Promising progress. Love is indeed in the air. Love for the Frax base pool. And, even with the cloud of regulatory uncertainty that is overhead now, Frax just keeps grinding, keeps growing. No matter the environment, Frax is there working for you.
I am ready. I'm very ready for VEFPIS to be added to the Frax Check within the next week or two. Very ready.
I would love to.
New edition.
I would love to add that.
New products, and the thing that really surprises me the most has just been the up only growth of Frax ETH. I thought it would be successful in attracting liquidity, but not at like a 8 to 10% clip, like week on week on week. Like it's a black hole for everything ETH, right? And we haven't even really kicked off the trade, like the Frax ETH payment incentives for LPs, right? So I think there's a lot to come. We're still really in the early stages of Frax ETH, and I think that it has been designed in a way where we're always going to have the best yield, and we're always going to be like the I think the best ETH-based stablecoin to move into.
Oh yeah, that's facts.
Facts.
Facts. That's Frax
Yes.
facts.
Facts.
Straight Frax.
As always, we are biased. We are a Frax-centric podcast. So if you come here to listen to that, then yes, we definitely want Frax to go up and to the right on all of the graphs. And for me, guys, I feel like with this whole maybe we should talk about the regulatory bit for like 5 minutes,
Sure.
just because that's kind of top of mind for everybody. I feel that anybody who holds like naked USDC in their wallet will probably want to find a place to park it. whether it be into a Frax BP or like into some liquidity pool in case of like some super far black swan event where the SEC orders Circle to like freeze all wallets and make sure everybody like KYCs before coming back.
I don't know about. I'm going to disagree with that. After doing all the research for the Frax in Review that was sent out today, I mean, it's easy to make these kind of like broad statements, but it's a little bit more complex to say like, oh, hey, there was things with Kraken that they weren't telling their customers about how they were running their staking as a service operation, right? And it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same as, oh, hey, we're just going to stake you and we're not going to charge any fees. Like they had like a fixed range, and like if the yield went above that range, they would keep the excess profits, right? And they weren't staking everything. They just weren't. They weren't disclosing all the facts and terms and conditions to their clients. And then with the whole Paxos thing as well too, I shared this in the Frax in Review, but there were several times where Binance, which was a separate company from Paxos, was issuing BUSD on BSC and inside their ecosystem that was uncollateralized, where they did not have enough collateral to back the BUSD that they were issuing. And, I think it's a really easy narrative to say like, oh, hey, like SEC is coming for these things. But like those are really justifiable instances for the SEC to come in and regulate through action, right? Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, we would all love like clear guidelines and stuff, but this definitely looks like it's not a Paxos thing. It's like a Binance thing. Binance did this, not Paxos, not the stable coins. And then also on the staking, it's like Kraken just didn't disclose everything, right? And they were not doing the things that they were saying they were going to do for their staking program. So
it's like they gave the opportunity for the SEC to come in, and especially in this coordinated fashion where we see with Operation Choke Point, all happening at once in one giant swoop. Like, that they've been sitting on this for a while, waiting for the time. And now when like all these organizations are weak, like, Kraken just had that large layoff. They don't have the biggest war chest. And, these regulatory agencies, they don't necessarily go after like, oh, like who's like violating the most. It's more like, oh, who has like the weakest piggy bank in Treasury. And, Kraken was weak. SEC saw the opportunity. Kraken didn't even put up a fight. And here we are today.
Yeah. And I think I also wrote this in the Frax in Review as well too, is that I really think the SEC is choosing their battles really wisely, where they're going after like embattled players who are kind of down in their luck at the moment, who just want to settle, right? Because Paxos is probably going to discharge Binance, settle, slap on the wrist. The USDP stablecoin is still going to exist. Like all of their other stablecoin products are going to exist as well too. So it's really just that relationship with Binance, because I think the regulators have had Binance in their sights for a long time, but they've just not been able to go after them. So, because the whole Iran, helping Iran trade $8 billion worth of crypto like a year or two ago, and also a few other things. I think the regulators are really, really trying to crack down on Binance, right? And I don't know if we'll see like further crackdowns on like Circle or anybody else, but those companies have like really deep pockets and are already pretty entrenched within the U.S. system, and are trying to work with regulators, and which obviously isn't the best thing at the moment, but like working with lawmakers, trying to be there on Capitol Hill and like get some legislation through, which we'll probably see. I don't know. I think we'll probably see stablecoin legislation this year, hopefully, and if not, then 2 years away when we get a new administration.
I like that. Thank you for that education piece. And if people wanted to read more, they can subscribe to our Substack and get that information straight to their inbox. And with that, I'd like to thank DeFi Dave and Sam for joining me here for this week's Frax Check. And as always, please touch, just gently tap that subscribe button to help get us to that 10,000 subscriber mark. And if you haven't already, please go to our Substack at Flywheel Output. Is it .com or .com? Flywheeloutput.com, and please subscribe to that Substack.
Substack, subscribe.
Substack, subscribe, sub now. because it is not subpar. It is definitely above par. And Sam and Dave has been just pushing out a ton of content on that front. So make sure you get that delivered straight to your inbox. And please join the conversation on Telegram and Twitter at Flywheel DeFi. You can find me at 0xcapital_K.
You can find me at DeFi Dave 22.
And I'm at traders_insight.
And we'll see you next week. Happy Valentine's. Love is in the air. Peace. Okay, cool.